Former YouTuber Ruby Frank, known for her parenting advice channel, 8 Passengers, has been sentenced to up to 30 years in prison for physically and emotionally abusing her children. Frank and her business partner, Jod Hilderbrand, pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, including forcing their son into physical labor and inflicting injuries. This was part of a plea deal which resulted in guilty pleas being given, with more serious charges being dropped. The abuse came to light when Frank's 12-year-old son escaped and sought help from a neighbor. Frank expressed remorse at her sentencing, acknowledging the harm done to her children. Hildebrand also pled guilty and received a similar sentence. The case highlights the dangers of influencers promoting harmful parenting practices and the importance of safeguarding children's well-being. This story is from Sky News UK, published on the 21st of February 2024.
This is some pretty atrocious behavior by this mom and her friend. At one point, they coerced their daughter to jump into a cactus plant as punishment. The son, when he finally escaped, he didn't escape from his own home. For some reason, he was at Hildebrand, her business partner's home. Escaped from Hildebrand's home. Had I believe duct tape on his wrists and ankles, and had been chained up. And one of her older children at one point was banished to out of his room because he wouldn't get along with his son and was forced to sleep on a beanbag chair. Just atrocious behavior. I don't know in what world any of this behavior is okay parenting. I don't understand it. It's just completely unfathomable to me. I was raised Mormon, and these are not parenting techniques that I ever heard preached from a pulpit. I believe both the defendants were Mormon. I know the mother was. But I think maybe they probably didn't want to be parents. I think a lot of Mormons, they in Mormonism, no one gives you the option of not being a parent. It's always preached your whole life to be parents. That's the highest, and that's the best thing you can do is to be parents. But nobody ever tells you, you know what, be parents if that seems right for you. Give it some thought. Figure out if that's what you want to do with your life. And it sounds like these people probably didn't want to be parents and were maybe coerced by the church to be parents, and then had no skills on how to be parents at best. And what I really want to know is, where in the heck was the dad during all of this? Mom and dad had been separated for a year, I believe, before the son escaped and got help. The article says that neighbors also claimed that after her husband was out of the home, Frankie would leave the house for weeks at a time with the children inside. What dad doesn't know that their kids are being left in a house for weeks at a time alone? Come on, dude, step up. And I'd like to say this is an isolated incident, but from what I see, there are a lot of dads out there that when they leave their marriage, they leave their kids too. And that's a bunch of fucking shit right there, right? If you're not gonna show up for your kids their whole lives 100% of the time, then you should not be having kids, right? If you're a dad, their whole lives. You're a mom, their whole lives. And that's what you're signing up to do. And I'm so mad at this dad for not being present, for not protecting his kids, for not being there. It just makes me so mad. Helen?
All right. So she's a piece of fucking trash, and 30 years just does not seem enough for what she did to her children. The report also goes into how the son that jumped out the window and found a neighbor to help them. And this is how this whole thing came to light, because they were basically being held in their home. And he had incidences of being held with duct tape, and his mother used cayenne pepper and honey to dress his wounds. And I also want to point out, if I know some people in our audience may have experienced abuse. So if you're having any triggering feelings, please bow out. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to tough through something when watching our show, because this is fucked up. Is extremely fucked up. And I'm curious what each of you think, because she's Mormon, there was this assumed goodness about her. She's a mommy blogger talking about raising children, talking about being part of the Mormon faith. She had a partner. And I'm curious, do you think that because, this Mormon goodness, kind of the shield that she had, because if you listen to her blog and the videos, like she mentioned, like her daughter, her 6-year-old daughter forgetting her lunch and not bringing her lunch, her lunch to school and letting her starve. She's 6 years old. Like, I couldn't imagine doing this, and there's little hints of the type of behavior that she was inflicting upon her children. So I'm curious what each of you think in regards to this religious shield that tends to happen when people are when it comes to child abuse. So I'm curious what you think about that, Cynthia.
Oh boy.
That got heavy.
Yeah. It's
this is not a fun story, everybody.
No, it's not. And I mean, like, and to be honest with you guys, like, I was really like wrestling with myself on exactly how I would approach this. I mean, like, I'm kind of a new mom myself, and as we speak, my kid is at the door trying to get into the room while I'm recording. Hey, baby. Hey, honey. How you doing? All right. And even though that, he likes to throw his crayons and his chalk on the floor, and I get really upset when he does it, especially after I clean up and vacuum the entire living room. I just make him pick it up. I was like, no, you made the mess. You can pick it up. And when I hear about people like Ruby Frank and her partner, who is a licensed therapist. She was licensed to actually practice therapy and psychology in Utah. I mean, like, even though that she got her BA from Brigham Young, and then she got her master's in educational psychology from the University of Utah. So this is a person who is educated in this particular field, yet you are observing and even participating in the abuse. How dare you? And I really get, like Aaron just mentioned, extremely upset when you have parents who happen to just like leave situations completely, like, I'm free, and then forget that they got 6 kids, that still need you as a parent, and then the next person that is using their religious edicts to guide them when it comes to raising their kids, unfortunately, leans very heavily on the whole verse that says, in the heart of a child is bound foolishness, but the rod of correction will drive it far from them. I believe that's Proverbs. And you can do all your different contextual interpretations of what the rod is. But oftentimes it has been interpreted from different religious sects as a punitive literal rod. And how they use that punitive literal rod often would be to the child that has to absorb the parents' shitty ideals and shitty beliefs. And I feel bad for her children. Definitely, I'm kind of glad you guys kind of got into, like, some of the things that happened to her son. I couldn't do it. I was about to say, just like, guys, just read the article. I mean, it goes into explicit details when it comes to, like, the abuse that was suffered by her children. And I even got a chance to even look up how much the channel was still making, like close to like $2,000 about a week from all the subscribers. I think that she had over 2 million subscribers to her YouTube channel, and it's still making money. I think that they finally took it down. I think YouTube finally took it down, but but for the past 30 days, even while she was still under arraignment, it was still making money. So this person is using her horrible parenting advice, her shitty ass beliefs, and to exploit her kids and to make money off of them. Ain't that about a bitch? Phoebe?
To answer what Helen brought up earlier, as somebody from the British Isles, so that's the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland, we have had serious scandals that have dented the ability for individuals in positions of authority through pieces of paper and so on. Because as Cynthia says, she went to BYU, she went to University of Utah, etc. And there have been enormous scandals in the UK about abuses that have taken place in therapeutic settings, abuses that have taken place in public settings, abuses that have taken place in the church. The Catholic Church of Ireland and the laundry system that used to be in place in Ireland. And for those of you who are familiar with it, Operation Yewtree. I won't go into too much detail of it, but Operation Yewtree was the largest police operation in the past 20 years. And those two events make me, as somebody looking at this, very skeptical of the individual to begin with. And it shouldn't be that way, that because I've had these horrendous things happen in the countries that I am from, I'm now skeptical of these people. You should exercise critical thinking before you go and take any advice from anybody on the internet. Do not take what the four of us here say, what the two people on Talk Heathen say, what the two people on AXP say, what people said on secular sexuality. Don't take that as gospel. We're not a religion. We're not authorities just because we open our mouths and say things. You need to analyze what we're saying. And you need to analyze what was being said by Ruby Frank and her business partner. And this is where things have gone off the deep end with 60-second TikTok culture, shorts taking over YouTube, and people consuming sound bites, and that's it, not the context. And the veneer that's not being penetrated here is you can say what you like, but that doesn't mean you've got any more authority than someone else saying something different. You have to analyze and listen to what they're saying, and you have to think to yourself, why am I agreeing with this person? Am I agreeing with them because what they're saying is something that comports with my values? Am I agreeing with them just because they've got a badge that says, look, there we go. There's in society we're conditioned to believe people in authority. We're brought up, police officers are there to do good. Firemen are there to save you. Doctors are there to help you. And when that breaks down, when police officers don't do good, when firemen don't come and save you, when therapists and doctors do harm, it really gets to the core of what we're taught as children. And it comes back to this religious adage: thou shalt respect thy mother and father. Because that is very dangerous as a maxim, because it gives parents an authority that they have not earned, because you flopped out of somebody's fanny and you're being raised by these people. For those of you who don't understand my Britishness, fanny does not mean backside. And you have to think critically before you take on face value what somebody says. Don't dismiss it just because it's been said, but don't accept it without questioning. And this is what has happened with this YouTube channel. You don't know what's behind the four of us here, just like we didn't know what was behind Ruby Frank. And that's what the danger of not thinking critically does. Don't think so critically that you never believe anything and you're some sourpuss that doesn't have any fun. But exercise reasonable caution. Exercise this and that. And don't turn around and say, oh yeah, that sounds good, I'll just follow that. Because that is dangerous. And it's not just dangerous, it creates the mob. And we have to stop creating the mob.
Yeah, when I was in drama in high school, our drama director told us, if you forget your line or forget what you're doing on stage, just act like you know what you're doing and people will believe you. And that's the truth. Confident people are believed. And people that are verbal, human beings, we're on the spectrum. Some people are really super verbal. They can speak really eloquently. And some people like me are on the other side where they just kind of fumble over everything. And people that are really charismatic and verbal and able to articulate themselves and be the loudest voice, they tend to be believed and followed, even though maybe what they're saying isn't the brightest idea. And I see this at work all the time. I'm a software engineer. Usually it's the people that speak the best and the loudest that get listened to, and not the people that maybe need a few minutes to go and think about something and then come back and speak. So I totally agree with what you're saying there, Phoebe.
So the thing that, that I'm kind of, pressing upon, like I did a podcast earlier this week where we were talking about how churches are now asking for legal protections when they are facing with sexual allegations lawsuits. That they're trying to circumvent paying out the money that they're supposed to pay, being paid out, trying to circumvent the statute of limitations, so on and so forth, which I find disgusting. And I'm tired of, religion being used as this bastion of like moral values, and we take care, like we were talking about earlier, like, we're trying to protect, we're all about protecting children, we're all about, being the good ones, we're the good parents, and so on and so forth. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired because just because you prayed as a sky daddy and you claim that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, that does not save you from criticism. It does not save you from the law. It does not save you for the court of public opinion to think that you are a piece of shit. If you abuse another human being, you are a piece of shit. Because you do. I am a parent. And in that verse where he says, respect thy mother and father, you need to give that respect back to your child. Your child is not your property. They are a person. And if you want them to grow up to be a decent, kind human being, then you need to be a decent, kind human being. You need to treat people with respect. And as Phoebe says, just because someone says something that sounds good and it sounds reasonable doesn't mean it is. Because what happens in religion is people sound reasonable and they sound like they're giving good advice and they sound like they have more than two brain cells to rub together. But in the background, they're doing horrible things. And it happens over and over and over and over and over again. Anne Frank is an example of one person that got caught. And she had enough of a public image, and everybody's focusing on the fact that she's Mormon. And she's a mommy vlogger. That's what they're focusing on, her religion. And that in itself shows that we're trying to put religious people in this special little box. They're special. They should be, free from ridicule. And we keep talking about this on this show. Again, just because you're religious does not mean you're free from ridicule and criticism and also at times hatred. Because guess what? I hate this bitch. She's a terrible human being. I don't think 30 years is long enough. She tortured her children. And you don't get a free pass for that. You don't get the veneer of religion. And I'm just over this shit. I'm hope those kids heal. I hope they find some way to move forward and build a life that's worth living. And I'm deeply sorry that happened to them, and I hope they find a way forward.
Yeah, no, you were right the first time. It was Ruby Frank, not Anne Frank. That's
Okay.
different
Am
person.
I getting my
Right? No,
it's Ruby
no.
Frank. I'm thinking of Anne. Okay, now I'm thinking of Anne Frank. I am
Right.
sorry.
No, like this, like seriously, like this whole story just will like put your whole head in a kerfuffle, obviously, because it's just so horrible. And I echo your sentiments, especially when it comes to the children. I really do hope that they get the help that they need. I hope that they actually are able to get some type of assistance, behavioral health assistance, so that they can heal from this trauma. But and I know that like Phoebe, what you said was spot on. I think this is a cautionary tale of looking through the fallacy of authority. And the authority that these two women touted was, I'm a Mormon, listen to me, and I'm a mommy. And so that Mormon mommyism makes me an authority on raising children. And I have someone to co sign with Miss Hilderbrand because she is a mental health counselor and she is licensed to be a therapist in the state of Utah. So that makes us authorities. And I don't give two shits what your title is. It's your work, not your words. But we do have more words, people. And if you want to hear more words from the nonprofits, click here.